Welcome to the Fitness Mindset Podcast. Amanda here, and each week I will be bringing on guests that will help you live your best life. That might sound a little bit cliche, but it's podcasts like this that will offer a diverse range of topics to help you overcome life's setbacks, to help you achieve your fitness, career, and life goals. This podcast has been sponsored by my coaching practice, Divine Physiques Coaching, offering one-on-one, online and small group training out of CS Fitness in Caroline Springs here in Melbourne, and I am now available for corporate speaking, which is something I am incredibly passionate about. Stay tuned until the end of this episode so I can fill you in on an up-and-coming event coming in Victoria. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Fitness Mindset Podcast. I am joined with Seb Guilhaus. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Guilhaus. Well done.
This is episode number 30. I can't believe we're at episode number 30. We've been going along now with the podcast for I think it's been about a year now. And Seb and I were on maths together. But we connected, Seb.
We connected. Absolutely, Amanda. As soon as I heard you had a podcast, I felt compelled to be a part of it. I think we're just like-minded individuals, and I think we really felt something with each other, as maybe we sort of sense with people that we meet in general. It was a bit of a comfort and understanding, an instant sort of comfort and understanding, the vibe.
Absolutely. So when I met you at maths, so we met at the reunion in Jan.
Yeah.
And you'd been filming for so many weeks prior. What made you apply for the show? I know it's probably a silly question, but what compelled you? Did you not have much success in the dating game prior?
Yeah. No, I after my first long-term relationship, which was I was around 21 at that stage, and that was on and off for 3 years, and it ended so toxically that unfortunately, not because of, it wasn't her fault, it was just the matter of it was mistiming. It was a situation where she was far more grounded. She had forged her identity. She had been in many relationships, and she was ready to head towards a more mature direction. And if you can imagine, I'm fairly exuberant at the age of 32. If you can imagine how I was back then, I wasn't capable of contemplating kids and things like that.
Yeah.
And so we were very, 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 very ultra super close, but it was something that couldn't be helped at that time, at that stage of life.
Very young.
So after that point, and for many, many years, as I sort of said, I didn't really give relationships another chance. I had, I dated a little bit, but it wasn't for nothing more than a few months. And then obviously, I'm 32 years old now.
Yep.
And that's a lot of years have passed without a serious long-term relationship. And at this stage and over the last few years, what has really changed me and helped forge my identity and my persona and my passions, in a sense, has been addressing and embracing fears. So on one hand, to answer your question, it's a long answer, sorry.
All right. Good.
To answer your question.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question again. Jeez.
Never ask me a question again. So to answer your question, I wasn't doing myself any favors. I figured that maybe, a panel of psychologists might have a better idea, and also about life experiences. So if I didn't, meet someone that I was going to be with, then I couldn't see a reason why I wouldn't try.
So did you date much? I mean, from that gap from your first girlfriend at the age of 21 until sort of 32, were you out on the scene? Were you actively dating, having fun and all the rest of it?
Look, I was out and about, but I really only had I saw maybe 3 people, one for 1 month, one for 2, and then one for 3 months within that period of time. And then otherwise, that's sort of the extent of my dating history.
You really got lucky with Liz, didn't you?
Yeah, basically. This is what I honestly think it was. I have a tendency to push people away when they get too close to me. I am a people person and a people lover, but I'm very protective of my core in a sense. I find it very difficult to let people through past that certain point. So what the show did for us, because Liz is actually very much the same,
Yeah.
and what the show did for us, because we had early arguments and we were feeling at times that we would fall back into our old ways and we would push each other away. But the experiment brought us back together, and we actually overcame and built trust that we might normally have not in the outside world. So although, it's very contentious saying that it's an ideal situation for the growth of a relationship, but for us, maybe in our personas, I think it might have actually helped in the initial stages.
That's I mean, so few can actually say that the experiment helped. For others, they felt the pressure and crumbled pretty quick. Whereas it's probably exactly what you two needed to get out of your comfort zone and to break your walls down, which is fantastic. That's excellent.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So you two aren't living together at the moment. She's in Sydney, you're in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were planning to move over there though, and then was it the lockdown that kind of stopped that?
So she had a place in DY, Northern Beaches, and so we'd gone back and forth from there, and I checked the place out, and I'd met the landowner there, the homeowner, and I got along with her. But as soon as the filming finished, and we were ready to make the move in, she had decided that she didn't want us both moving in there. So that's fine. I don't want to go too much into that and talk about her, but that was the reality.
Yeah.
And what she did, she said, if you want to move in, you have to pay an enormous amount of rent, which wasn't agreed to originally. So Liz ended up moving out of there, and she's back in Newcastle, and I'm back in Adelaide, and we've gone back and forth. So once the virus subsides, then I am happy. I want to get out really of Adelaide.
Why do you want to get out? Is it too small for you? Because you're a pretty big man. Let's admit you're about 8'2".
And look, the amount that I'm training, I'm expanding every day. So I don't know. Like I might just need more.
You bulked up because your chest is looking nice.
Oh yeah,
Superman.
A little bit of chest. Yeah, I have been in Adelaide for a very long time, so I am all about change, and I'm all about, if that's the way that the wind is blowing me, in a sense, then why not? We'll try.
Sweet.
It's all about trying.
I agree 100%. Let's talk about you growing up. So you as a kid, transitioning, teenager, 20s, and now. Talk us through that. Like, what was that like for you?
Okay. I was a very, very curious young kid. I was always looking under rocks. I was fascinated by nature and this sort of thing. I was very hyperactive, very, very hyperactive, as you can imagine.
Where did you grow up, Seb?
I was born in Sydney. I was born in Coogee, but I came to Adelaide when I was 2. So I spent most of my upbringing around the Kingswood Torrens Park area in Adelaide.
Okay.
And I was just, obviously heavily into my sport, all this sort of thing, all the stereotypical things. I was loved running around, playing, getting amongst nature, things like that. And then I had no sort of real awareness, and obviously until I sort of became hormonal, I hit puberty, and then something sort of changed, as it does, and I just began to live inside my head.
Yeah.
I guess you would call that anxiety or whatever you might call that. But I did really struggle from my entire teenage years, even until it's an ongoing thing, but till possibly my late 20s, with serious head speak, serious self-doubt, and a real lack of identity. And it's funny because stereotypically, and what my my aesthetic is stereotyped as. I know what I look like, and this is not at all the reality that I saw, or in a sense, how society saw me. And I don't want to, what I'm trying to say.
Like, it's like that photo of the little lion looking at the big lion in the mirror. You know that photo? And it's
Yeah.
it's like we know what we want to see. And I can relate to that, Seb, because growing up, and I'll tell you a little bit about my journey later. Growing up,
Yeah.
I wasn't unpopular by any means. And when you got people telling you that you're beautiful or amazing, but on the inside, if you don't feel it, it's like, you know what you want to be, you know who you want to be, and
Yeah.
just when you're in a state of anxiety or depression, it's very hard to see that in the mirror. So it's amazing when you believe it, how what you see completely changes.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes you just never know. You can never really know. Everyone is different. I know we all know that, but you need to stress that everyone is different. Doesn't matter what anyone looks like. Their perception is a person's perception, and no matter what's going on the outside, what matters is how that person is actually feeling on the inside. So that has been my reality, and the particular reason maybe that I hadn't forged a strong sense of self, and I sort of floated around in the wind. I think I've sort of self-assessed that, and I can sort of think I have an idea on that. I had a very just before I go into it, my father's a brilliant, amazing, fantastic man, but he also came from extremely, extremely difficult, traumatic circumstances, post-war Germany. And his story is that he had to be a leader from a very young age. He had to be in control. He had to be a parent for his younger siblings, and moving on into his later life. And how that reflected and sort of transferred onto me was that he raised me as an extension of himself, because he thought that was the best way to succeed and to grow. And what that did is I developed, a sense to sort of please him in a sense, but I didn't develop my own personality. I became Fred Jr. in a sense, right? And so
are you, sorry to cut you off, but I want to know, so parents, are both parents of German background?
No, just dad. My mum's Dutch, but second generation, I think.
Okay, cool. So that describes your stature.
Definitely.
Do you have any siblings, Seb?
Yes, I do. I've got a 15-year-old sister, Bonnie. So there's a big gap, there. And I've got a stepsister, Olivia, who I grew up with since I was 5.
Right, got you. All right, so you felt the need to impress your dad, which is not uncommon for an older sibling. I'm a middle child, but I would often see my older sister really helping out my parents in a sense, but very similar to my mum, so so you lost yourself in the process.
Yeah, I didn't really develop a self. Yeah.
What advice would you have for people then that say are the older sibling or an only child that really want to try and impress their parents? I mean, how can you impress your parents without trying to be exactly like them?
Well, this is the thing, and I don't know this because I'm not a parent yet. So I think you really need to push a child's self-exploration. You really need to emphasize that for your child. What are they passionate about? What do they want? What do they really want? Obviously, there has to be a bit of a framework there of what you can do and what's been successful for you, but you really have to push and validate unconditionally. So that child just develops an idea of who they are, like not what's necessary to please, but who they are and what makes them happy. I think it's really important to get that groundedness.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is obviously just an opinion. Who knows the remedy for self-assurance.
Unfortunately, there is no roadmap for proper parenting, and parents,
No.
most parents, because most don't do self-development and they just do life as their parents did, and that is their perception of the world. So
Yeah.
it's very people and parents need to be very mindful of the ideas and the traditions that they put onto their children, because their children will take on that exact model and then
Yes.
either run with it or realize that there's other things out there in life, or it doesn't suit their personality, which is very similar to myself in that case as well. So yeah, very
exactly right.
Very interesting.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you can sympathise with that, as you've just said. I mean, all your parents know is the path that they have taken, which has brought them success. But we're all so different. We're just got to understand that those walking in those shoes, it might not be what's needed for another person. We're all so different.
Yeah, well, I mean, growing up for me, I mean, I come from a traditional European family, but not traditional to the point where, not about arranged marriages or, you sort of had to get married by a certain age. They weren't that full on because my parents were raised in Australia. So, but at the same time, there was a kind of level of expectation of not so much education, but working a full-time job and buying a house. That for the Europeans, it's like a big goal for them.
Yeah.
And then I think with me, I've kind of pushed the status quo. I've broken a few molds over the years. Likened myself to the black sheep of the family in a sense that I've always been a little bit different and gone the other way. So if you tell me to do this, I've always sort of gone the other way in a way. But
that would have been hard for you. That's why it's probably why you've developed such, toughness and strength as well.
See, this is the thing, Seb. Growing up, I think I was really good at masking what was happening on the inside. And same thing with the show, in the sense that I walked into the dinner parties riddled with anxiety, but no one knew it because it was such a high pressure. I don't know about you. Was your heart racing the whole time throughout?
Absolutely. Of course it was. Absolutely it was. Yeah. No doubt.
And this is where we can only understand that, and it will take the strongest person and put all sorts of, I guess, it really tests you, basically. It really does test you as a person. So we're incredibly strong individuals, but that environment was really full on at the best of times.
Yeah.
But in terms of everyday life, like in high school, I lived with basically anxiety and depression for the later years of that. But no one knew. No one knew because I put on a strong front,
Yeah, and that would have been so difficult for you. Yeah, over time.
It's not so much just me. I'm sort of talking everyone now. A lot of people put on a strong front. And I think what a lot of people need to sort of do that are feeling anxious or whatever is, even if it's one or two people that they can depend upon, is to learn to be more vulnerable about what's really happening internally.
Yeah. Otherwise you eat yourself up inside. Absolutely. Over time it does. If you don't fully express what's really going on, and we all have these masks that we put on to some degree to cope, because we are anxious and we are scared that the majority of people won't understand our story, especially if our story is regarded, or it might be slightly different than the norms, the societal norms.
Yeah.
Of course. And it is difficult, and that's why, when trust is betrayed and whatnot, or you don't have some people in your life that you can really confide in, to break down those walls and fully express and release all those guys which have kept you safe and kept you sane in a sense. It's difficult to do. But once, as you would know, like this is testament, as you would know, how did you feel once, you started to relinquish, some of these guards, as I think, as we're doing with this with these discussions, and as you have done for the last year with this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is testament to what you're saying.
Look, I learned a lot personally coming off the show, and I, for a very long time, held on to the fact that I still didn't feel good enough within the family unit, right? But that was probably more so that I was trying to find an answer externally. And what the show did for me was, it didn't work between me and Tash, and that's all fine. But I think it wasn't ever meant to work with Tash. I think I had to be sent there to make peace with what was going on internally with myself. And that was that, and the message has always been, is that sometimes people are not bad people, but they're just not for your life, for you personally.
Yeah,
they don't
exactly.
serve your mission, your goal. They can't really appreciate what it is that you do, say, think, feel, etc. And we have a choice to either remove ourselves or to keep staying there, hitting our heads against the wall going, but why don't they just, and it's like, you know what, it's okay.
Yeah.
I accept me. I love me. I've changed, grown and evolved over the years. And with that comes a stripping of certain people in your life, and that's okay.
Yes, that's a massive, massive point. You should never try to force or change someone around you. We're all going to be who we are. And as you just said, some people are for us and will help each other, and other people, it'll be a toxic sort of engagement just because we're all so different, and that's fine. It's when we try to enforce that there's issues.
So what was the turning point for you that you sort of thought, you know what, I really need to come into who I am as a person? How old were you, would you say, when that all happened?
Do you know what? I think I was 3 years ago, 29.
Yeah.
29 years old. I think I determined that I lived so safely. I had been so scared and so anxious that I'd done some things which are, regarded as out there, but that was a bit of a front, like you said, and it terrified me. But I really needed to get to a point where I could express myself.
So what are you referring to when you say you did something that was quite out there?
So I started a creative arts degree. And basically that was like a very high intensity little hub unit where basically we would daily tell our stories, express ourselves, and put ourselves out there. Yeah. And I think I really started to grow and develop when I stopped being so safe, and it became sort of addictive, and it just helped me grow. But it was only 29. It wasn't even 3 years ago.
Did you finish that degree?
No, I only did a couple of years. What I'm gonna eventually go back at some stage, unless depends on what happens with the whirlwind that's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
But I've got another year and a half or so to become a teacher, which is ultimately what I'm going to do, a drama PE teacher.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good mix.
Like this degree, because you're personal training at the moment.
Yeah. I've been a personal trainer, Seb, all the way through, but I was studying. Yeah.
So talk us through your career now. Like, so I know that you're playing footy and PTing, and you've worked in construction. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did everything evolve?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll go through it all from straight out of school. I did a year and a half of a commerce degree. Economics was Dad's path. Dad's got the doctorate in economics and he's business minded. And I started doing that mainly, to please him.
do.
And obviously I didn't know what I wanted or who it was. So, I would do something. And so I started doing that.
Yep.
Then I went out of that. I went into banking. I left that degree after a year and a half, went into banking, did 3 years of banking, just as a senior customer service officer. And then I was like, this is not for me either. And then I went back to uni and did half a psychology degree. And I was like, that is for me. I'm very interested, but I am still not grounded enough to be able to deal with statistics and all of the other. I just want to get straight into it, which of course you can't do. You really learn about the mind.
Yeah.
And so, yes, and so then I left that, and then I got into the personal training side of things.
How long?
And I was doing that for quite a while, maybe a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I enjoyed that, but I needed more structure. I felt I needed more structure around my life. I've been very Pisces and I've been very floaty. And as I said, I didn't really know who Seb was, and I didn't have a strong sense of what I wanted. So I went up to Darwin. I knew I could get a start in construction up there, and I locked myself away into a 4 weeks on, 1 week off mining gig, which was brutal hours but good money. And I was like, okay, this is good, but I'm a creative. I'm a very creative person who needs a creative vent. That environment, you need your friendships with the people that you work with 10 to 12 hours a day. Otherwise, you go insane. There's not much mental stimulation. There's not many new daily challenges.
Yeah.
It is highly paid but very sterile environment. And this is why, I was up there for 2 different companies for about 3 years in total, and there were 8 suicides on the site that I was working at.
Wow.
Because people are locked into this extremely high wage. They've got families interstate. They've got these assets that they're paying for, which their partners are unsatisfied because they demand affection like any normal human does.
Yeah.
Children are there as well. It's a very unbalanced situation, and it's an example of how our society, our monetary-based society, of course, has pushed us to go to these lengths to satisfy societal norms and expectations financially. You can have a conversation, you go, I'm doing this. The first thing that usually comes up, unfortunately, is, well, obviously, we're your close friends, how's that going for you? It's like, I just bought a new car, talking about on this sort of thing. When the real question should be, are you fulfilled? Are you happy? Is that enriching your life? And that's what I learned from that. So after 3 years, I couldn't do any. It wasn't for me.
3 years though, because I couldn't even imagine. I know my dad did a brief stint with fly in, fly out work, and it would have been hard for him, I think, as well, because he's an electrician, and he was working for himself for quite a long time, and then later on in his later years, he's now 58, I think, has been working for other people. But I think in that brief time in his life, as much as he kind of started to enjoy it, it can get so lonely out there. And like you said, if you don't develop or establish friendships, you're stuffed. Yeah, absolutely. Early starts, just all these things weighing on your head, all these responsibilities weighing on your head. You're not seeing much of this money. It's going straight into the super ultra mortgage and the super expensive car, and and you only see your family 5 days. It ends up being with travel time, 5 days in 5 weeks, basically, and it's just not sustainable. Yeah. Don't think you can really put a price on how precious family time and spending time with your friends, and I personally I became a workaholic when I started the PT business, because I didn't want it to be a lifestyle thing. I want it to be a real business, and I wanted to make real money and change lives, basically.
Yeah.
And I think like any venture you start up, yes, in a similar way, I had all this extra income, PTs can make some really good money.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time I had to enjoy it was in the pockets of time I had to either shop online or quickly duck out and buy something, come back in. But I really had no time for myself. I was too busy helping everyone else. And kind of 2-3 years in, I'm like, is this all this is? Because I personally am not fulfilled when your social life goes down the gurgler,
Yep.
trying to help everyone else and you're not helping yourself, or trying to, I suppose, materialize what you like, your happiness in a sense, and you look at it and you go, pair of shoes or a new house is only fulfilling to a point.
Yes. The concept of pleasure versus happiness. Pleasure being the void that's filled when you buy a material item, which quickly comes back, versus the sustainable happiness, which is fulfillment, which is long term. And unfortunately, so many of us strive for and think that the next thing we're going to buy or the next is going to make us happy, when it's just going to give us a little dopamine release and make us feel joy or pleasure for a short space of time. When we should be searching for fulfillment.
Sorry, can we just address your cat? Is that Savage?
That's Savage. Savage rhymes.
In the world. He's so cute. Are you enjoying his company at home?
Yeah.
Oh, look at
so
him.
Gorgeous. And he's so affectionate. He's always coming up, walking up onto my chest and giving me a kiss.
I love it. So cute. All right. So how are you? So post maths, obviously you had an amazing run on maths. You and Liz are in a really good place, which is beautiful. And great for Liz too, after what happened last year. So good on both of you. Yeah. So what are you up to at the moment?
Yeah. So I'm trying to, I don't want it to be a purely fitness type thing. I want it to be a fitness and wellness. This is why, I'm so keen to have these sort of conversations, because ultimately I'm about understanding, I'm about communication, I'm about wellness in the mind, wellness overall. And what I mean by that, fitness is a large part of that. Health, diet, sleep, these sort of things, and then discussions and understanding. And as you have stated, unblocking walls and all these things which hold us back from being our true selves, and therefore being confident and happy, and removing the anxieties and the stresses. So that's what I'm about. And so what I'm doing at the moment is I'm training two warriors at the moment in the mornings for fixed slots, and I'm training with them. So I do the exercises with them. I run the sessions with them, right? And I'm doing this for free. And what the whole point of what I'm doing for 2-week time slots, the whole point of this is I have had people contact me. I've asked for people to contact me, share their stories, share where they're at. In dark places, they're really struggling to find motivation. All these things have happened in their lives, and I want to hear these stories. And I've chosen Sheridan and Sophie, for instance, at the moment, because they are willing to, at the end of just 2 weeks, express not the dramatic physical changes. There might be a little bit in a sense, but what's important is where they are mentally, habit forming, and are they able now to take this intensive training and basically these habits and go themselves, and then encourage others. So that is the focus of what I'm doing with those people. And otherwise I'm not training clients. And otherwise I'm doing live stream workouts and I'm trying to put a little bit of flair and a bit of fun and I'm trying to make it fun. I'm trying to make it catered for mainly beginners and intermediate, just for getting people. You got to understand that such a high percentage of people have never really trained in certain degrees. They don't really know what they're doing, and that they therefore don't know the joy of and the positive endorphin releases of exercise. 100%. So that's where I'm at, and it has been super engaging. I'm absolutely flat out.
Yeah.
And I think for the first time in my life, which is a blessing, I guess, to the show has also given a larger voice, so I can try to positively impact a larger group of people, it's fantastic. And I'm at max capacity trying to make everything work.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I totally understand. I mean, I'm no doubt you've got a slightly bigger following, so your DMs would be running hot. I mean, same thing is that I put up a video the other day about intermittent fasting, and people have gone nuts over it. And now a part 2 video about what to eat. So I've done that, So like you, it's about giving mass value now with the platform that you've got. Are you physically selling programs, or are you doing it mostly for free at the moment? What's the go? Do you have a website?
No, I've got a website. I've got a website, but I'm not selling any programs as yet.
Right. So that's good. Thank you. Sorry. Oh, my Lord. So the long-term goal with this, what do you envision for it? Like, do you envision having a particular program that people can invest into? Are you looking at mindset and training?
Do you know what? I'm thinking this is being consolidated more and more as I engage with more people. Yep. And I it's funny. It's all sort of rapidly sort of becoming concrete in my mind. Ultimately, I want to do all of this on a grand scale and have a massive positive impact. Whether this is in just an emphasis, the fitness as a base, but the emphasis on, as I said, the whole grand scale of things, the mind, the body, and the soul, as being crucial, not just focusing heavily on one, but for wellness rather than just fitness. So all under the banner. So what I want to do is be a motivator, a coach, I guess, an educator, or whatever I might be able to be. As I'm getting this feedback, I'm getting more conviction that this might be something I'm capable of.
So you're getting a moment from people, and I think from what you're saying is it's giving you better scope and idea of what direction to take it and potentially how to manage it in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a great idea. It's a great idea. So you're learning. Ultimately, you need to learn what your audience needs and wants.
Yes.
Rather than going, well, I think this works. It's like, well, I'm getting feedback from everyone, and eventually I might put out something, whether people pay for that or whether I do it for free. At the end of the day, you're changing lives, Seb, which is testament. So hats off, brother.
You too.
Oh, look, I know. Quick. Wait, all right. So what's on the agenda for the rest of the day or week? What have you got planned?
This is actually, you asked me this question today, and it's actually the busiest day I've had since I think I've finished the show. So obviously I trained Sheridan and Sophie this morning.
Yep.
We're doing this podcast now.
Yep.
I am doing another podcast at 11. And then I've got a content shoot where I can finally get some decent sort of images of training clients at 1.
Yep.
Then at 6 p.m. I've got my live stream workout.
Nice. So when do you run your live streams?
What's that?
When do you run your live streams? How often? What times?
Every 2 days. I'm locking in every 2 days.
Yep.
And I've also been hit up by Pedestrian TV to create 3 similar workouts in a sense. So they're going to be coming out just after May, but mainly it'll be every 2 days. I'm getting better with trying to advertise for them. You've just got to learn how people interact with the social media. It's also new to me. I am just trying to rapidly learn, how it works.
Yeah. That's well done.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, what time have we got? 22:10. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. I've got to dash off to another client call shortly. But Seb, is there anything you kind of want to leave us with? And also, how can people find you online? I think you're pretty easy to find. People can't miss you. But what sort of, what sort of websites or handles do you want to plug below?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, if people want to get in touch with me in regards to business or PT stuff, I have a website, www.sebastiangilhaus.com.au, and then there's heaps of links for the contact form. Or obviously I've got my Instagram. I'm just trying to. It's difficult for me to get through messages. Yeah. All right. What I want to leave. What I want to leave with everyone with.
Yep.
Is just yearn for understanding. Let's not try to put people in baskets or make judgments before we fully understand. I think that for me is my lifeblood, my yearning to want to understand people and their stories. So if I could say anything, that'll make everyone happy.
Nice. And if you could give people, like, on top of that, maybe 1 or 3 pieces of advice that they can apply in their daily activity, what would that be?
Drink lots of water.
Yep.
Show gratitude. I think starting a gratitude journal.
Yep.
It sounds corny, but it has a really big impact. So rather than, there's so many stresses at the moment with the virus. Just 3 things a day. Write down 3 things a day which you're grateful for.
Yep.
In under a month, you'll be surprised. You'll start focusing on all of the things that are fantastic, and you won't be weighed down so much by all of the things which obviously we're being affected by. And sleep. Get your sleep in.
Oh, 100%. Totally. I think so many people's sleep patterns would be out the window at the moment. Not all.
Yeah.
I know mine has. Forget it. So it's I'm trying to get it under midnight, but I'm struggling to have. I don't know about you, Seb, but I cannot. I'm getting this energy spike after about 10:30, and I'm staying up far later than what I normally do. Are you feeling that as well?
It's been scattered, and I found that I'm being very like thrashing around in my sleep as well. It's been very whatever that word is. Yeah. Oh, it's not good.
No.
And then getting up early.
It's not. Anyway, love, it's been amazing. I'll plug those handles below. Thank you for tuning in to the Fitness Mindset Podcast, and until next time, we'll catch you soon. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you liked the content, please make sure you support the show by giving a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and turn on your post notifications so you are the first to know when a new show is released. This coming September, myself, Dino Hira from last season's Married at First Sight, Tabitha and Eleanor will be launching our first ever complete reset retreat here in Victoria, so please stay tuned for more developments on that as the months roll by. If you are interested in having me present a speaking presentation in your enterprise, sporting club or event, please send me an email. Link is below in the description. Thanks once again. You've been amazing to last this long, and join me again on the next episode.
push till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun